White and strong teeth are the key to excellent health and beauty. At least, nowadays many people strive for such an ideal. But in medieval Europe, there was a fashion for black teeth, and no one really knew how to treat them properly. For the sake of high social status, some secular ladies even wore something similar to braces. Anything to avoid losing your teeth. And anyway, medicine in the Middle Ages was in a deplorable state. Knowledge and practical skills were not enough to effectively treat diseases, and epidemics claimed millions of lives. In the modern world, everything is different. In the Middle Ages, black teeth were considered a sign of wealth and even beauty. The thing is that rich people could afford sugar and sweets, which were very expensive. This provoked the development of caries, which literally devoured the teeth. Elizabeth I, the daughter of King Henry V of England, had such a problem. The young 25-year-old queen looked very young and was pristine, but the black teeth bothered her. Like many girls of that time, Elizabeth I tried to whiten her teeth, but the substances included in such products acted aggressively against the enamel. Over time, the situation only got worse. The queen has found a way out in her favor. She introduced the fashion for black teeth, and she felt great. Teeth in the Middle Ages also hurt, and they had to be treated or pulled out. At first, monks were dentists, as the most educated people. Then hairdressers started doing this lucrative business. By the way, over time, they not only shaved and trimmed, but also pulled teeth and performed bloodletting. It was not customary to fill holes in teeth as in our time. It was believed that they were gnawed out by worms, which were fought in barbaric ways. They were filled with hot wax or acid, cauterized with a hot iron. It was believed that pain could also be overcome this way. Since medieval dentists did not even suspect the existence of anesthesia, they anesthetized this procedure in no less monstrous way. Either the patient heroically endured all the manipulations, or he was beaten on the head so that he lost his senses for a while. But the rural poor had practically no such problems with their teeth. The peasants ate hard and raw food, and this made the teeth white and strong. However, there were practically no centenarians in the villages, and most of the population died before the age of 40. In 1988, a group of French archaeologists discovered a lead coffin with an embalmed corpse inside Laval Castle. Upon investigation, it turned out that this was the widow of Count Laval, Anna de Legris. However, it was possible to conduct full research only after 37 years. What was discovered was a sensation. This woman belonged to the highest circles of the French nobility of the Middle Ages. And de Legris was an aristocrat, a countess, a Protestant, and a woman who carefully looked after her appearance. But healthy, beautiful teeth are an integral part of beauty for a woman. Despite the fact that Anna remained a young widow at the age of 21, she remarried the governor of Normandy. But the aristocrat's carefree life was not. It was all the fault of the incessant struggle between Catholics and Protestants. She was a Protestant. Fear for her family kept her in constant stress. This affected the woman's health over time. Anna began to actively develop periodontitis with the prospect of tooth loss. But how could a socialite afford such frivolity? A toothless woman could lose her high social status once and for all. The experts found out that the countess had an ivory tooth inserted instead of an incisor. But that's not all. In order not to lose a few loose teeth, they were tied off with gold wire. It turned out to be something resembling braces. At that time, there were no means of anesthesia. Therefore, one can only assume what pain Anna was experiencing for the sake of her beauty. Unfortunately, all efforts to keep the teeth intact ended badly. As such, there was no treatment, and the gold wire only had a cosmetic effect. In addition, it did not hold teeth well if it was not regularly tightened. And this loosened the other teeth even more. Experts say that the absence of teeth alters a person's speech, making it depraved. These are the sacrifices a socialite could make for her reputation. Knowledge and experience were needed to help a person get rid of a particular disease. Doctors of the medieval era had only a limited experience of ancient healing, but there was no serious theoretical basis supported by solid practice. Professional medicine has just begun to develop. In those days, the opinion of the church was dominant and sounded like, a person receives all illnesses and sufferings as payment for sins. Illnesses were treated with healing icons and prayers. In most cases, this did not give any result, aggravating the condition or leading to death. Another thing is the village healers, whom the church considered representatives of evil spirits. Their skills were called witchcraft. Therefore, the church called for getting rid of such people by burning them at the stake in public. But these healers treated illnesses with the help of herbs, proper nutrition, and activity. Jewish healers could also help to cope with this or that disease. They read special books and had knowledge of the medicine of the ancient East. Unlike rural doctors, Jewish doctors were able to determine the pulse, perform bloodletting, gastric lavage, and much more. They helped suffering patients to get rid of simple illnesses. Unfortunately, they were completely powerless against serious diseases and outbreaks of epidemics. Surgical intervention in the Middle Ages was resorted to in the most exceptional case. Firstly, such specialists had to know not only the anatomy of the body perfectly, but also possess a large amount of additional knowledge. At one time, monks worked in this direction, but then a strict ban was imposed on it. If surgery was performed, for example, tooth extraction, cranial trepanation, cataract removal, etc., then there was no anesthesia. One could only imagine the agony the patient had agreed to for the sake of recovery, although painkillers still existed. Otherwise, patients would die from pain shock. The patients were given potions made from henbane or hemlock, vinegar, or opium. If it was cooked incorrectly, then death could not be avoided. Closer to the 14th century, the alchemist Paracelsus discovered ether, thereby saving patients from suffering and danger. The most terrible diseases of the medieval era were outbreaks of chicken pox, plague, cholera, and polio. Millions of people died from them, regardless of social status and age. Cures for this scourge were found only by the XVI century. It was possible to curb the epidemic only with the help of the strictest quarantine, well-established nutrition, and excellent sanitary conditions. After all, outbreaks occurred due to the fact that people lived in complete unsanitary conditions. Rats were running through the streets, sewage was pouring out, water and food were contaminated. Wounds and the delicate problem of hemorrhoids were cauterized often with a red-hot iron. Medicine is clearly not for the faint of heart. A very popular method of treating patients was bloodletting. In this case, a vein was opened, releasing some blood, or leeches were planted on the skin. It was believed that bloodletting was necessary to cleanse the body, which meant that it helped to get rid of ailments. They also used various methods to cleanse the body. Throughout the history of mankind, doctors have done the impossible. What do you think about this story? Write in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any amazing new stories. See you.